Thanksgiving begins a very special time of the year for us. It's the time of peace and reflection, and of getting ready for the new year. One thing we should all be thankful for is that we live in America, where we have the freedom to change things and the opportunity to...
Welcome to the Drunk Turkey Show, starring Big Blue.
Okay, can I say hi, Kim?
Hi. Oh, I love you. You are just like a giant.
Or
Lady Liberty just squirted in my face. And when you do drink with a straw, the myth is you get more drunk because you get more air mixed in.
Hi, Maggie.
Like, you know how the fan's going like this? It goes, ooh, yeah, when it hits my butthole. Last time I went to Mexico, I stopped by a little stand and the lady had gloves. I was like, lady, take off those gloves. I need that shit. It wasn't. I'm drinking beer so you can feel good and like it tastes good. What the hell's the point of this?
And Daniel J.
I got a friend named Jonathan Martinez who's not allowed in the library. Yo puede hablar español cuando yo te mando. You look very handsome tonight. LJ.
Every day. It's an everyday thing. I gotta
wake up because his excellence.
Y'all watch them every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. I get to see them every day. I get to see that. I get to see those chicks every day. What's on his face?
And the other ones.
Year 3000, it still sucks. This is Phil J. Pride, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
Just like every other podcast. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drunk Turkey Show on this late edition Sunday night podcast. Kind of throwing a little bit of a throwback there for the intro. You know, we are getting into our favorite time of year coming up pretty soon in November for the Drunk Turkey Show. I'm trying to get the guys to come back for at least a couple of shows here and there. If you guys put in the Slack, what am I talking about? Put it in the live chat and or in the comment section. Tell the guys, come on back. We want to see you guys for another show or two. So I hope everybody's having a great night. Hope everybody's enjoying their weekend. I hope everybody has had a safe weekend. And today we're going to be talking about a little bit of politics because you know what? That's what's in the air. That's what's happening now. And in just a few weeks now, we won't know who the United States will have as their next president. The 47th president of the United States. It should be an interesting run. It should be a, I don't know, it seems like it's almost won in certain places, but we're going to talk about that today. Let me know in the live chat and hit that, what you guys think about the current, situation going on with the current election, and hit in the comment section. And then throughout the show, keep letting me know. Also, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. And before we get into it, one final thing. If you guys are concerned about your privacy, maybe concerned about your information getting onto the web, check out our partnership with DataSeal. What they do is take all your name and info off the interweb, so that way, people don't find you or search you up and see a bunch of stuff about you. I know things are important like, name, address, phone number, but religious preferences on there also, voting preference, especially right now. You don't want that all over the webs. Go check out DataSeal. You get a 5% discount when you use our link. It's in the description. And so with that being said, let's get into this. So Joe Rogan had a podcast with Donald Trump not too long ago, a podcast that I think is getting quite a bit of views. I think they are now. I searched it about an hour ago. And I'll pull it up real quick. I searched it an hour ago and it was at 30 million views. Now, I think, we'll see it right here, 31 million views now. So in an hour, this interview has increased by another $1 million. Now, I know that there was some folks that support Kamala Harris on the Democratic side, saying that during their rally, so to speak, because I believe Kamala Harris had Beyonce and some other performers come out, to do their thing to get people to go, because let's be honest. If Beyonce ain't going, or all these other celebrities aren't going, and neither other people going to those things. And so, in fact, I think it may have been at that rally where somebody yelled out "Jesus is King," and Kamala turned around and said, "Hey, you're at the wrong place for that. You need to go to the small rally down the road." And what they were referring to was the rally with Donald Trump, because he was a little bit late, because he ended up doing this podcast, and there was some folks that were left leaning, kind of saying that when you look at how many views that that Kamala's rally got on YouTube compared to what Donald Trump was getting on his rally on YouTube, that I think that they had like 1 million views or 2 million views at the time. And they were looking at that as some sort of victory for Kamala Harris. However, as you can see, 31 million views. I haven't checked it. I'm gonna check it now. The Kamala Harris rally with Beyonce. Let's see how many views that's at. Okay, let's see. Kamala Harris Beyonce rally. Let's see. I'm not sure. 187,000, 1.1 right here. So pretty good amount. I mean, it seems kind of 944K views. So yeah, they got some viewership on there about the the rally there for for Kamala Harris, but 1.1 right here. I think that's the biggest one. Now they were looking at this rally as the viewership on here as, hey, look, she's kicking his butt. She's getting 1.1 million views. That's so fast. I think that what Donald Trump did with that interview was that was genius of him. Joe Rogan allowed him to speak freely. There was some things that obviously he was going around. I think when Joe Rogan brought up the JFK stuff, he brought up directly the comment that Donald Trump made referencing Joe Rogan, wouldn't want to release what he has seen. And he started bringing it up. And I believe that Rogan was, Trump, former President Trump was really trying to divert that question, even went into aliens and things of that nature to avoid the question. But he did make the statement that if he wins, that he would release the JFK files. And I think there were some interesting things that were said in there. You looked at the fact that he said that there could be national security reasons, persons still alive that may have been involved or had something to do with it. And even when asked about government individuals involved still alive, he said that there's, they're them or their families or people associated with. So it did very much seem like there's more to that story. Trump kind of downplayed it, saying, hey, it's not as interesting as people think. But, would you make the statement that Joe Rogan wouldn't want to release it if he saw those materials, if it wasn't something that was interesting? You know what I mean? Just kind of my thoughts there. But, it got worse for Vice President Harris over the weekend. She had an interview with CBS, a 60 Minutes interview, that it has been discovered to have been edited. And I think that's, when you look at what has happened over the last, not just this time, but the last time that the Donald Trump was running against Biden, and the suppression of the laptop, right? The Hunter laptop. That was crazy. What does that say about information and true information when when the laptop goes out and the media is playing this as some sort of Russian thing, which ended up being not true? The laptop was real. The stuff that's on it, as disturbing and disgusting as it is real. And if you haven't seen it, I really wouldn't want you to, because I think some of it's probably illegal to view. Because I think in a couple of images, he's without clothing, and I think his underage niece or something like that is in the background. And so viewer discretion if you go out there and check those things. But that was real. And you couldn't even talk to people about it. If you brought it up online, you were censored. If you talked about it through messages on Twitter, which was at the time was what it was called, not X now, on Twitter, it was scrubbed. You couldn't even mention it. There was no talk about it. They try to sweep it under the rug. Just in that one instance alone should make you question what the validity of the information you get from mainstream media is. And I had seen a post not too long ago where it was Donald Trump. He had went to the Pittsburgh Steelers versus New York Jets game, and in the game, I'm a huge diehard Pittsburgh Steeler fan. For those that don't know, give me 1 second. There you go. I didn't realize how high that microphone was, but I'm a huge Steelers fan for one. And during this game, it was Russell Wilson's return. He didn't play so great in the first quarter. There was a moment where he had some passes that were pretty bad, and they ended up booing, Russell Wilson and the Pittsburgh Steelers in that moment. And this article read that Pittsburgh fans at Acrisure Stadium appear to boo Donald Trump. And I was like, I watched the game. I'm very familiar with the game. I'm very caught up with the game, especially, the games there in Pittsburgh. And they were not booing at him. In fact, there was videos of the entire stadium chanting USA when Donald Trump, former President Trump, was out there waving the flag, him and Elon. And that brings my next point. The backing that the Republican side and Donald Trump has gotten from other places that you wouldn't expect. You have Elon Musk. He was, from what I understand, somewhat Democratic before in the past. You're having Democratic leaders come forward. Tulsi Gabbard, JFK Jr., or not JFK, Robert RFK Jr., he's come forward. They have all been in favor of Donald Trump. And it's not just with the presidency. Here in Texas, we have a huge problem with the border. I mean, it's prevalent anywhere you go. You see the, especially in the past before Ted Cruz and Abbott, before they put their foot down and said, no, we're not going to allow all these, illegal immigrants coming across the border. I think there was a situation where there was some barbed wire that was being utilized along the border there on near Eagle Pass, Texas, which was infiltrating the area. In fact, there was many news coverage that was going out there, things of that nature. And now we have Democratic politicians, whether it's the Houston DA or the mayor and other Democratic places, who are now in favor of Ted Cruz because of how far the Democratic Party has gone. And you have Kamala Harris going in and is talking about the border, right? And she ends up doing the town hall thing. They ask her about the border, which I think this was probably one of the most fair interviews done by Anderson Cooper towards a Democratic side. And in that interview, they ask her about the border and they ask, was she wrong? Was she right? And she can't admit it. That's when you have a problem with a person that can't admit that they were wrong. And this isn't the first time that she has a history of that. She used to be a prosecutor, and there were people who were innocent in jail that remained in jail a long time, and she knew it. But they stayed there in jail because she could not admit she was wrong. And even in this situation, she has not changed who she is. She has not changed as far as the person that she is. And if anything else, I think more of it has come to light. Her true self comes out with the lights and the cameras. She can't hide it. And now they're campaigning as if Donald Trump is Joe Biden. They're saying that he's old, that he's lost it mentally, this, that, and a third. Who are they to tell if somebody has lapse mentally when they have supported Joe Biden for how many years now? And we've all seen his mental decline. So, everything that they're throwing out there now, he's a fascist again. They're comparing him to Hitler. They're comparing him to Hitler again, and it's like, okay, are you guys trying to feed somebody else to go and do what has tried to been attempted in the last couple of months again? Is that the only way you guys think you can beat him? I mean, this is becoming a this is just so frustrating. And then the fact that, I just heard not too long ago that out there in like California, like as far as registered voters and stuff that goes, apparently it's like racist to ask if if you have a voter ID or for their ID or for anything. I think the United States is one of the fewest countries, if not maybe the only country, that doesn't require voter ID. I don't understand how it is racist to require somebody to show that you're from this country. I mean, if you had your job, right, and let's just say you worked for, I don't know, Walmart, and we'll just use this for an example, and Kmart was right next door and they're a competitor of yours, would you be okay with them going in there and making decisions on your salary and what you can offer and things of that nature, and not question who they are as far as when it comes to those decisions? How would you feel about that on a minor scope, much less on a larger scope of things? It just doesn't make any sense. And the only reason you would want to do it is if that's the only way you can win, in my opinion. But yeah. And I'm not going to be ugly towards anybody. If you guys, favor one side or the other, that's your choice. Everybody has a right to choose one way or another. But my thing is, when it comes to what is currently going on and how this administration has failed repeatedly and expects us, the everyday American person to say, all right, you and Biden couldn't do anything but ruin everything for the last 4 years. The next 4 will be better because why? What have you done to proven that things will get better? I mean, everything across the board is just, it's bad. I used to try to stay out of politics, but I think this is a topic that needs to be discussed, especially right now when it comes to the election coming up here pretty soon. But let's get into some of these other things I wanted to talk about. Right here, this is one of the things that I mentioned earlier. This is endorsement for Ted Cruz from Kim Ogg, a Houston Democrat. I think she was like the DA or something like that. The district attorney for Harris County. Then you had a senator, Democratic Senator Eddie Lucio endorses also Senator Cruz. Like, it's not just at the very top. It's not just with Donald Trump. It's across the board. And I think that some of these, there are Democrats, as you can see, who are seeing things and saying, hey, this isn't right. Ukraine happened, and us as a nation, or our government, decided to spend more money going out to Ukraine versus having money to help out American citizens who have just gone through this catastrophe with the weather stuff. Priorities aren't there. And when you look at, and I'll probably get into this more on the After Dark show, where I'm a little bit more freer. I know I'm kind of touting the line with what YouTube would probably like with what I'm saying, but on the members show after this, I'll get a little bit more open about those things. But because I have a lot more to say, like when it comes to who Ted Cruz is running against and what their views are, and those views definitely won't be acceptable here on the regular side of YouTube, and it'll definitely get the that specific video probably limited and all those other things as far as viewership. So it's going to be a members only after this one. So if you're not a member, please hit that join, and so that way you can get that content. And if you're watching this on the replay booth, or the replay booth on the replay, if you're one of the replay crew, just let you know there will be a Just go check out the members only playlist, and you'll see this one also when this replay is ready, or when that one is available. Well, anywho, so you have these Democratic, persons, leaders, switching, not necessarily switching sides, but leaning with what is best for the country. So not everybody that is on the Democratic side is bad, and I don't think that that's the case. I just think that at its core, some of the extremists have kind of taken over when it comes to that side of things. And, I think we've seen an example of how that is played out when it comes to our country. Let's see. And for members, I mean, if you guys want to ask some questions, anybody wants to ask questions, throw some question marks in, or some stars, and that way I can see what you're saying. But for members, I will have that members only live, and we will be answering your questions during that program. And Canadian True Crime Buff comes in with 5 gifted Drunk Turkey Show memberships, so make sure you guys have those turned on. So let's see. Now, this is something that I found interesting. Backlash after Washington Post declines to endorse a presidential candidate. Wow. I don't know when was the last time this happened, right? I mean, obviously the Washington Post would typically lean left like. I mean, is this what we're thinking here? That they aren't, the side that usually, favors the Democratic side is now refusing to endorse any presidential candidate. Let me read this. I'm not familiar with this. It says the Washington Post has announced it will not endorse a presidential candidate in the upcoming election, provoking a backlash amongst some of its employees and subscribers. CEO William Lewis said that the decision was a return to our roots of not endorsing presidential candidates. I don't think that's true. I think this has more. I bet you anything come, the next time around when, the Democrats actually have a candidate that was voted in by the Democratic voters instead of somebody that was handpicked. You know what I mean? And so I just, by saying this, that should just tell you that how low that they think of this current, administration, and what the thoughts are going to be for those that continue to support it once this administration changes, because supporting this current administration and the way it's being ran, in my opinion, is, I'm going to save that opinion because that one definitely would be controversial. But this here, I think, is a huge blow to the Democratic side for the Washington Post to do this. Big thing, in my opinion. But let's get into what I wanted to talk about also. Let me bring it up real quick. All right, so this is something I wanted to show, and then we can discuss as well about what's being said here.
And she gave some really stupid answers. And what they did is they cut those answers out and they put other answers in. And I think it's really, I think it's a very bad act.
Former President Donald Trump keeping up his full court press against 60 Minutes, accusing the program of deceptively editing Vice President Kamala Harris's sit-down interview to make her look better. The controversy was born after the same question from 60 Minutes correspondent Bill Whitaker was attributed to different published responses from Harris.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
For 2 weeks, 60 Minutes declined to respond to Trump's allegation before issuing a statement Sunday night, calling Trump's accusation, quote, false, explaining that it used a different portion of the same response that was more succinct to allow time for other subjects in the wide-ranging interview.
Oh, that's bull crap. So what they basically said was she answered the same question at a different point, and that answer at that different point was better than the one that she gave the first time. And so to save time, because she was probably going, yeah, and then starting to laugh before coming up with some random thing, and then maybe perhaps later on thinking of something more intelligent to say. And they went with that answer that they went with. And I don't think that's fair for the American people. The American people should see the truth. They try to hide this with Biden with his mental decline. You know, this isn't an old card in their or an old play in their playbook or something new. I mean, this is an old play in their playbook. They try to hide things, and if you know it doesn't look favorable, they'll do certain things. And that was one of the things, like for instance, when Donald Trump was on the Joe Rogan podcast, he mentioned that in the debate he had with Joe Biden, he said that they wanted the debate to be a sit down debate, and he said no. I mean, when was the debates ever a sit down debate? It's never been something like that before, and so he wasn't. I don't think he was going to do it. And I think that the Democrats knew that if they wanted to get somebody else in, because if they felt that Joe Biden wasn't strong enough to win, I feel that they thought that, well, we need to get somebody else, and in time to campaign and try to bridge that gap with the voters that they lost. And so they did that early, and in efforts to do so, they must have gave in to Trump's request, because it appeared that they were standing the entire time. And I think that right there kind of showed. I mean, and nothing bad to Biden or anything like that, but it showed how much more of how much. What's what I want to look for? How more cognitive and physically able Donald Trump is compared to Joe Biden. And like I mentioned, right now the Democrats are kind of coming up with this thing saying that Trump is, having a mental decline and all these other things, that he's not as sharp or whatever the case may have been. If you listen or watch that interview, I mean, the guy sits there for about 3 hours, just the entire time talking, answering the questions. Does he become, does he kind of dodge questions here and there? Obviously, I think every politician and anybody that's running for things, or anybody that needs to keep things secret for national security, are going to kind of bounce around those things, like the JFK stuff that isn't, open right now, that is still under seal. If he goes into those things of what he's seen and it's still a classified thing, and he's currently not president, that could be bad for him. They're already charging him with I don't know how many different crimes and stuff that haven't been, that have no solid ground. Something like that might end up hurting him. So, to me, I just think that it is. I don't know. I just at this point, I think that when it comes to the polls, this is the first time for Trump that he's leading in the polls before the election. I think he has a very high chance of winning this election. And even though that's the possibility, even if you think that, oh, he's got it in the bag, you need to get out there and vote, because there's always this random box of unsigned ballots that only have check marks on names, no name of where or who this person voted. Any of those things always populate. And the American people need to make sure, regardless of which side you're voting on, that you go out there and make sure that your vote counts. Let's see. And go through some of the things out here in the live chat. I also want to say welcome to the Sassy Vega girl to the Drunk Turkey Show membership club. Good to see you. Good to see you. Let's see. Trump. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. I have a red hat that I was going to wear on the show, but I couldn't find it in time. Let's see. Because I've never been the huge into politics type of stuff until of recent. And I think it's important, man. I used to think it wasn't. I didn't think it mattered. And just seeing how far down how far bad this country has gotten, based on, in my opinion, doing things just so you don't seem to agree or be in the same, I guess, just so you don't agree with the opposition. Like, for instance, this border thing. I'm going to pull it up. Let me pull that up. I want to pull up Kamala Harris's response to the border question, because I think that's important. Because obviously the border is an issue. It's a huge issue, and
I want you to meet Jackson Weiss. He's a student at Drexel University from Flourtown, Pennsylvania. Registered Republican. Says he's leaning toward voting for you, but has yet to make up a final decision. Jackson.
Thank you, Anderson.
Hey, Jackson.
Thank you for taking the time to be here too, Vice
You
President
too.
Harris.
Thank you.
Regarding the rapid increase in the migrant population, how will you ensure that every immigrant is integrated into American society safely? What benefits and subsidies will you provide them with? And how long will these benefits and subsidies last for an individual? Most importantly, will the American citizens' taxes pay for these benefits and subsidies? And if so, how much money will be allocated?
Well, thank you, Jackson. Let's start with this. America's immigration system is broken and it needs to be fixed. And it's been broken for a long time. And part of what we need to do is always prioritize what we need to do to strengthen our border. I will tell you, I'm the only person in this race among the two choices that voters have. I've personally prosecuted transnational criminal organizations.
Yeah, but you've also allowed how many criminal immigrants into this country? I think it was like 13,000 murderers or something like that, and other words that I can't use on this channel. I mean, come on now. You're also the only person that left people in prison that you knew were innocent just so that you wouldn't be wrong. I don't know, man. I mean, it's just a lot of hypocritic stuff that she's saying, when it comes to this. And Cooper Anderson, of all people, kind of lays into her of this.
In the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career making sure that our border is secure and that we do not allow criminals in, and we don't allow that kind of trafficking to happen and come into our country. And as my opponent has proven himself, he would prefer to run on the problem instead of fix the problem. You may know there were some of the most conservative.
I'm assuming she's saying this to this young man because maybe she's hoping he was, I don't know, 14 the last time that Donald Trump ran, and maybe he wasn't involved in politics, but everybody else knows. I don't get it. And for him to be a Republican going to, thinking about voting for Democratic side, I mean, I don't know. He looks fairly young. I'm not sure. I do know that there's been a lot of people who are fairly young who are registered Republicans. And I think, like, for instance, the person who attempted to hurt Donald Trump, and I use that word just so we don't get kicked off. And he was supposedly a registered Republican. Now, here's the thing. In my opinion, a lot of the radical left, they would do anything so that Donald Trump doesn't become president again, which probably includes registering as a Republican so that you can vote in the primary against Donald Trump to get him out of it before it even becomes an issue in the primary. So he doesn't even race against the Democratic opponent. And maybe hopefully they'll get somebody else that they can control because they can't control Donald Trump. Just my opinion on that.
Conservative members of the United States Congress working with others that came up with a border security bill that would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border. Those border agents are overwhelmed. They need the support. They need the backup.
But you're the ones telling the Border Patrol agents to allow them in. In fact, I think that they had an agreement with the Ukraine bill that they wanted to allow X amount of illegal immigrants into the nation on a daily basis from certain ports, and I thought it was like 5,000 or 500,000 people a day, some large number. Just what she's saying just doesn't jive with what she's done. It just doesn't make, it don't make sense. Don't make sense.
It would have allowed us to have more resources to stem the flow of fentanyl. I don't need to tell this state and people around the country what is happening in terms of the scourge of fentanyl and how it is literally killing Americans. It would.
And so Loaded Hot says, has anyone ever been polled? Like I had a polling company call you and take your opinion. I've had calls and text messages. I've never taken or any of those poll questions before because I don't want to know which way I vote. I don't trust people. I don't trust the government. I don't trust a lot of things. I'm very suspicious of things. And so I'm not one to put my information out there like that just so that it can be used against me. And so let's see. Rose comes in and says, but Daniel, I don't think she let the bad ones over, but they swam across. It's two different things. No, their policy allowed them to open up the borders. They allowed the borders to open, and those people took advantage of it. And if you don't think that that's what's going to happen, as far as what Kamala Harris, if you don't think that hey, I'm going to open up the borders, I'm going to let anybody come in, and that there's a problem with, the Mexican gangs, Mexican mafia, or whatever the case may have been, the cartels that have been trafficking drugs, humans, and etc. These people have been trying to get in and do this trafficking things well before, even when the wall was being built and when the border was, being looked at, they were trying to. So if they're going to open it, I would assume that those people are going to take advantage of it as well, and then you have some of these other countries allegedly allowing, opening up their prisons and their psych wards and putting the people that they have problems with in America to deal with. Like, where is putting America first in any of that? And so to me, it's not like she had a choice, like, oh, I'm going to pick this person and that person and go one by one. And I get it. There are some people who need to come over, who are being persecuted for whatever reason. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be any immigration in at all. That'd be foolish, but I think that just opening it up for anybody to would be equivalent to, like, living in Chicago and going to sleep with and no offense to anybody in Chicago, but Chicago is one of the higher rated crime cities in the world. But going to sleep with your windows open and your door open, wide open, just maybe have an unlocked, glass door there, your outside door, you're not expecting anybody to go in. Nobody should go in, but you're leaving yourself very vulnerable for somebody bad to go in. And that's kind of where I say, hey, I understand the gesture and I understand what you're trying to accomplish. But there has to be something, another way, because the way that it is currently happening or has happened, in my opinion, one was only done because it wasn't the position of the former president. Now, had the former president been like, hey, let's open up the border, I guarantee you that her side would have been, no, let's build a wall, let's do this. It became a point where, in my opinion, if Trump said go right or go left or go straight, they're saying go left, right, or back, just to be opposite of whatever he is, because they didn't want to align with him. In fact, they're still not wanting to align with him. And you'll hear it here in a second with Anderson Cooper.
To put resources into stemming the flow. It would have given more resources to investigate and prosecute transnational criminal organizations. It would have done a lot of good. Donald Trump got wind of the bill and told them, don't put it forward. He killed the bill because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
I think there was a lot of other stuff that was wrong with that bill that you don't bring up. Like, wasn't it like transgender studies in like Pakistan or something like that? that you wanted to send X amount of money to, like a bunch of stuff that you wanted to put into that bill that just made no sense. That was not in the benefit of the American people. Never has been, never was.
We have to have a secure border, and we have to have a comprehensive pathway for citizenship. And that includes requiring people, hardworking people, to earn citizenship and do it in a comprehensive, humane, and orderly manner.
Let me ask you about that. I mean, you talk about the bill that Donald Trump quashed, that was in 2024. You talk about the bill he tried to get passed in 2021. That wasn't able to get passed. 2022, 2023, there were record border crossings. Your administration took a number.
She's looking at him like, how dare you bring this up on my channel? She's looking at him like, you're not supposed to be asking me questions like this.
For hundreds of executive actions, it didn't stem the flow. Numbers kept going up. Finally, in 2024, just in June, 3 weeks before the first presidential debate with Joe Biden, you institute executive actions that had a dramatic impact, really shut down people crossing over. Why didn't your administration do?
Lee comes in and says, I refuse to believe that, and I want democracy, not a dictatorship. I'm not sure what you're refusing to believe or anything, so I don't want to make any assumptions. But if it's refusing to believe, like, what I'm saying in reference to what Kamala's done for dictatorship and democracy or whatever, Trump brings it up right away. They when he became president in 2016, they were looking at everything. They were accusing him of being a Russian spy. They had the Russian dossier, all this, which was paid for by Hillary Clinton. Bill Clinton has ties, like real ties, to specific island and things of that nature. And there's been a lot of accusations against him that don't come out. The suppression of the Hunter laptop, the suppression of people talking about it. They were censoring people from finding out the truth. They're editing her voice and her words, or maybe not her voice, but they were editing her answers to questions that are tough. That don't sound like much of a democracy, my man. And I'm not saying that you're saying that it is, but if that was your take on it, it don't sound like democracy. That sounds like somebody trying to control a narrative. And instead of having, people have a vote themselves, trying to force themselves into a position, that sounds more dictatorship than anything to me. May not be the same person that is the face of the country, but when it comes to certain things, it's who's the person with the money, with the wallet. They're the ones that control things. They're the ones that control, in my opinion, sometimes, persons that are in charge. They're the real people in charge, right? I think everybody's heard this before. And I think the problem is with a guy like Trump is he's got his own money. He doesn't need to be controlled. And he actually loves this country. And so, when it came down to like 9/11 and stuff like that, he was really upset. He was in New York. That's where he was at. He was, he was loved. He wasn't the fascist. He wasn't anything. In fact, he brought up in the Joe Rogan podcast how, when he was running before it looked like he might actually win, the persons in the View were loving him. Whoopi Goldberg gave him a kiss and all this other stuff on the cheek, and they were telling him how even though he's running as a conservative, he has, liberal ideas and this, that, and the third. And now the guy walks by, they can't stand him. And the only thing that has changed since then is that he ran the country, and he ran it pretty damn good. I mean, a couple of years ago, cost of living was down. People were able to live. Kamala Harris talks about working for the middle class, this, that, and the third. And yet it's the middle class that is suffering the most right now. Is what it is.
Do that in 2022, 2023?
First of all, you're exactly right, Anderson. And as of today, we have cut the flow of immigration by over half. Do
you want generals who are like Hitler's generals? I mean, right now we have people getting invaded. Right now we have a president that may not have our country's best interests in mind. And so it's kind of like, hey, you bring up this Hitler stuff and all this other crap. You know, I don't even know if it's true what was said. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if something similar or something else was said, like, hey, you know, Hitler had some loyal people, or blah, 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 whatever the case may have been. Because he talks about Kim Jong-un and he talks about having a good relationship with him. Because you kind of have to. You have to have a relationship with people of the opposite position, because one, we're not their leader, and two, we don't want to go to war. Right now, we're on the brink of war. Now, if you have any children or you yourself are under a certain age, you know, military is down right now. World War III happens. Guess who's going? Guess who's going? A bunch of these, you know, especially these younger kids that, you know, don't, you know, maybe aren't really ready for the world. Now you're going to put them in war? It's happened before, you know, but in my age, when I went to the military, I didn't go to war or anything like that. I was ready to. But when I went to the military, I just feel like, you know, our generation was probably a little bit tougher than the current one. Just like the generation before mine was probably tougher than ours. I mean, it's just the way things go. Things have become a little bit soft nowadays. It is what it is. And, you know, you got to think to yourself, hey, when you've already heard lies like the Russian dossier and you find out that it was actually Hillary, you hear about this crap here. You really believe the other stuff that they're saying? And when you look around and you see what you're paying for daily life, gas, food, you know, how much of your paycheck is gone compared to what it was, you still really want to, you know, side with that? I mean, it really don't seem like, you know, it's your choice, but, you know.
In fact, the numbers I saw most recently, illegal immigration
But if
is
it was
low.
that
But hold
easy
on, let
with
me
that
finish.
executive action, why not do it in 2022, 2023?
Because we were working with Congress and hoping that actually we could have a long-term fix to the problem instead of a short-term fix.
You couldn't have done one and both at the same time?
Well, here's the thing. We have to understand that ultimately this problem is going to be fixed through congressional action. Congress has the authority and the purse. I hate to use DC terms, but literally they write the checks. Part of the issue is in order to really fix the problem at the border. I was just at the border recently talking with border agents. You know what they talk about? Yes, they are overwhelmed. They're working around the clock. And the other thing that they talk to me about, we need more judges down there to deal with asylum claims.
Are these the same people like when you said that there wasn't a soldier behind enemy lines, and then it zooms out of the camera and there's a bunch of soldiers and they're like, where the hell we are? Can't even keep straight with your lies. Let's see. Do you want media standing silent about their editors' political views? Standing silent like BCK. Is that like Brian Christopher Koberger? I don't care. I mean, you can clearly see who's biased. I mean, it don't take much to determine, you know, if one side of the, you know, if you're looking at a news stream from like CNN or usually the Washington Post, which maybe not so much anymore, at least for this upcoming election, you can really tell their biases. I mean, the other thing I talked about earlier, where they said that it appeared that Steeler fans and, you know, Pittsburgh was booing Donald Trump and they were booing the Pittsburgh Steelers offense and were chanting USAA when he was around. I don't know. I don't care about that. When it comes to Brian Christopher Koberger, that guy is guilty as sin. But whatever.
We need more personnel down there to deal with processing. But Anderson, and that's where Congress kicks in terms of dedicating the resources to actually fixing the problem. We have dealt with it such that, to your point, we now, as of today, as of our visit, have lower undocumented immigrants and illegal immigration than Trump when he left office.
That's true. True.
But we need a permanent solution,
Do you
and that
wish you had
requires
done that?
bipartisan work.
Do you wish you'd done those executive orders in 2022, 2023?
I think we did the right thing, but the best thing that can happen for the American people is that we have bipartisan work happening, and I pledge to you that I will work across the aisle to fix this long-standing problem. I think the American people are demanding it on both sides of the aisle. And it's time we actually put the partisan approach to this aside. We know what can work.
Well, let's talk about this compromise bill that you want to pass if you're elected. You said that's.
Now, I'm seeing a lot of people in here talking a certain way about a certain other type of folks, and it's not the conservative side that are doing the name calling. As you can see, it's usually not the conservative side that are causing the problems, throwing the fits, calling the names, being unruly, being unjustice, being on anything. I mean, when you hear about protests and riots from one side, it's always mostly peaceful. Let's stay really peaceful in our live chat before I start blocking some people.
It's going to be a priority. It includes $650 million in funding for the border wall. That's something Republicans wanted. That was part of the compromise. Under Donald Trump, you criticized the wall more than 50 times. You called it stupid, useless, and a medieval vanity project. Is a border wall stupid?
Well, let's talk about Donald Trump and that border wall. So remember, Donald Trump said Mexico would pay for it? Come on, they didn't.
Well, they shouldn't have. We should have paid for it. We're the ones trying to protect ourselves, and you should have done what's best for our country in doing so. So figuring out who paid for it or not, that's what you're sitting on. You know, maybe if you had a little, maybe the other side gave him a little bit of help when it came to some bipartisan stuff, maybe it would have gotten done a lot faster, easier, and getting it done. And as loaded hot says, Mexico was paying it through tariffs, which Donald Trump brings up in his interview with Rogan that we'll be talking about a little bit more on our members only show here in about 15 minutes. So we're going to be doing this for another 10 and then switching over. Okay.
How much of that wall did he build? I think the last number I saw is about 2%. And then when it came time for him to do a photo op, you know where he did it? In the part of the wall that President Obama built.
But you're agreeing to a bill that would earmark $650 million to continue building that wall.
I pledge that I am going to bring forward that bipartisan bill to further strengthen and secure our border. Yes, I am. And I'm going to work across the aisle to pass a comprehensive.
Why is all this going? I'm going to do this. You're there now, lady. Like, that's the part that frustrates me, is you have an opportunity. You've had an opportunity. We all saw what Biden was. He's not been the one running this country for a while. And so you're the one that says it's you and him that make the decisions. If he's not making much of them, who's made most of the decisions that's put our country in a bad situation? You know what I mean?
Comprehensive bill that deals with a broken immigration system. I think Jackson's question, part of it was to acknowledge that America has always had migration, but there needs to be a legal process for it. People have to earn it. And that's the point that I think is the most important point that can be made, which is we need a president who is grounded in common sense and practical outcomes. Like, let's just fix this thing. Let's just fix it. Why is there any ideological perspective on it? Let's just fix the problem.
To fix the problem, you're doing this compromise bill. It does call for $650 million that was earmarked under Trump to actually still go to build the wall.
I am not afraid of good ideas where they occur.
So you don't think it's stupid anymore?
I think what he did and how he did it didn't.
You see, here we go again. She cannot admit that she was wrong. This is what kept innocent people in jail. She knew she was wrong. She knew that they were innocent as she was a prosecutor, and she kept them there regardless for an extended period of time because she could not prove that she did not want to say that she was wrong. And if you have a person like that in charge of the country and something were to happen and they did something wrong, that's just going to turn into a mound into a freaking mountain. a molehill into a mountain. I don't remember how the saying goes, but this is the part that is just beyond me at this point.
I think what he did and how he did it did not make much sense because he actually didn't do much of anything. I just talked about that wall.
And how much have you done? So you're just calling yourself stupid in that situation because you're saying he was stupid because he didn't do much of anything. What do you think? What would you call what you guys did? I mean, I'm just calling a spade here. You know, you don't have to be one side of the aisle or another to see that you guys allowed more people in than and especially criminals. And you know, here in Texas, there was a point where Biden was going to send, I think it was the Alaskan National Guard or something like that to Texas, to the Texas border, because you know, Abbott came down saying, no, we're not going to be doing what you're saying and allowing illegals just to enter our country. You know, he was literally about to start a little mini civil war here. You know, that was real. They were fighting and willing to come over here to arrest Texans for protecting the border. Imagine that. Imagine that. But yet, they're the ones doing things the right way and the smart way. Yeah.
All right, we just talked about it. He didn't actually do much of anything.
But you do want to build some wall.
I want to strengthen our border.
She couldn't even say that she wants to build a wall. I'm not even surprised. Guys, I'm getting a little bit worked up on this. And because of that, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be moving on to our members only. So we'll be calling this one a show, and we'll be jumping over to the members only here in about 5 minutes. Go get on that other site. We'll talk a little bit more freely there. It doesn't matter if they limit that show or not. It's not put out there for everybody to see anyways. So that being said, we'll see you guys on the members only show.